Good evening, everyone. This is Obi-Wan Pez, coming to you with Heaven's Vault. This is a game came out in 2019 by Inkle, and I found this on some Steam sale. I've really got into it just because I think I was interested in linguistics as a possible major for my undergraduate degree. Most of you will know, or anybody who follows the channel will know, I am kind of a math guy, so having a linguistics, essentially puzzle game is just a fascinating idea for me. So, we're gonna come up and start the game. The cello intro is great, and the Gilgamesh introduction at the beginning was rather interesting.
Stories don't have tidy beginnings. The past is always present. But there has to be a spark. Something that brings the past to light.
Please come carefully. Let's go with It's Not Too Much Further. One last corner. We're almost... at the top. Take a moment to rest before you walk, mistress, please. You can see the stamina or perhaps health bar up at the top. You can just wait about a few seconds before you start walking. Those of you who have not played this game before, I won't be ruining too much. I'm just going to be playing through the first couple of hours of the game, and well, you'll see part of the mechanic. To keep people out, do you think? Or to keep something in? Heaven's Vault. The University of Iox, some weeks earlier.
My story begins on Iox. That was where I met the robot.
Mistress Aliyah. Mistress Aliyah Elisara. I have been waiting for you. I've been asked to escort you to Professor Mayari. She is very anxious for your arrival. And who are you? I am a robot, mistress. It is apparent. This way. Do you have a name, robot? Is that intended to be a joke, mistress? No? Robots do not have names. We are, as I understand it, interchangeable. So why has she sent you? Did you do something wrong? That seems unlikely. My ethical core protects me from serious error. Maybe I should get one of those. I was under the impression humans already had them, somewhere between the first and second vertebrae. This way. You should know that the professor's urgency was remarkable. Maybe we should keep her waiting. Don't want her making a habit of impatience. I cannot recommend that course, mistress. Have I got a promotion? With respect, mistress, I think that is most unlikely. Why is Mayari's room so far from everything? I imagine she enjoys her view of the tree, mistress. I am sure it is most pleasing to her. You can see the tree of knowledge over here. Or so they call it. Each branch grows more branches. Except for the ones that die, fall off, and are forgotten. Which is where we come in, I suppose. I went outside the university grounds once exploring. It is a very beautiful moon. You can tell it was once lush, fertile. There must have been huge forests, lakes, rivers, but they're all dry now. You've not been outside? No. Look at her. She looks like a tiger in a cage. A most curious analogy, mistress. You understand I will be required to report it. Required to? Of course. Professor Miyari is my primary user, mistress. Nevertheless, I will try to sugarcoat your opinion. You do that for me? Of course. I have been tasked with your well-being. Shall we proceed? What is your ethical core, anyway? What good is it? It is what stops me from pushing humans off cliffs, mistress. Is that something you want to do? It was simply an example, mistress. Were it to be convenient for me to do so, my core would prevent me. Uh-huh.
I was 15 when Mayari rescued me from the slums of Elbereth and brought me here. I'd never seen such luxury or such kindness.
What do you think of the sculpture? It has a pleasing balance to it. Was it worth the time it took to make it? When there are people on Elbereth who don't eat, are your own exploits worth the time they take, mistress? Should we not be making history rather than reviewing it? If you don't know history, you can't understand people. You can starve them or oppress them, but you won't understand them. So as you can see, as we move around, the individual dots showed up that gave us options, and each of those options, when you point toward them, actually will give you the option to take that particular course of action. When you point at something and click on it, that is when you actually activate the option. At the bottom, you'll see that I could question or reply based on whatever I felt like doing. And how reliable is your core? It is the core of my being, mistress. If it goes, I go. Professor Mayari's office. Professor Mayari? Aaliyah, there you are. Come in. I came as soon as I got your message. You don't need to flatter me, Aaliyah. Nonetheless, I'm glad you came. I know your work is important to you. My work is important to everyone, Professor. Well, today it's important to me. You're our expert on history. Tell me what you make of this. It's certainly old. Empire period. The device is the eagle and sun. One of the scholars sent this brooch to me, Janiki Renba. Do you know him? Did? Look at the detail. I see them. Ancient markings. I know they're a hobby of yours, Aaliyah, but can you read them? So this is the main mechanic of Heaven's Vault. We get, in this case, the eagle wing brooch. I've never seen either of these groupings before, but the two words have some common elements, so they must have related meanings. Well, so in the main mechanic you are given words that you may use, and you choose what meanings you would like them to have. In this case, the first grouping, this sort of comma with a dot, followed by a lambda sort of looking thing, followed by another dot, followed by a shepherd's crook, could either be potentially holy or friend. We're not sure what that could mean at this moment. And then if we look at the second, we get the options of emperor or beloved. So taking the two together, again, given that they have related meanings, just me personally, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that these have similar meanings. So I'm looking at probably Holy Emperor rather than Holy Beloved, or Friend Beloved, or Friend Emperor. Just most likely, if we're talking about some sort of cultural significance, we're probably talking about Holy Emperor. When you click them into place, you then get a view of the entire phrase that you created, and then you can go and continue or review and change your ideas. As you go, these will be verified. So further on throughout the game, they will be verified as you essentially triangulate each of these individual symbols. Holy Emperor. But I'm only guessing. You don't think it actually belonged to an emperor, do you? That would make this find of a decade. Now, perhaps why you see you're here. Janiki told me he'd found something that was more than a month ago. Janiki isn't like you. He's an Ioshan through and through. You're worried about him. He's important to me, and I don't know what he was doing out there. He told me he was going to a moon called Mayarsi. I can't go hunting the nebula for missing people, Aaliyah, but you can. That's what you do, isn't it? Find things? I'll look, but no promises. That's fair. Thank you. Come back soon, Aaliyah. And, Aaliyah, you're taking that robot with you. Thank you, Professor. I long to see the nebula. Oh, and before you go, you should look in on Huang. He was eager to see you. Eager? Why? Aaliyah, really. I couldn't possibly imagine. I know he's rather beneath you, but you could at least say good faith to him, for the benefit of our little community. I'll go and find him. He's down there by the tree. You must have walked straight past him on your way in. Good hunting, my dear. So based on the dialogue options, you do have the ability to be rather nasty to Professor Mayari, and she could potentially actually not walk you out here. She would kind of be angry with you. Should we go down, mistress? Yeah, all right, we'll go. Can I just say, Mistress Elia, it is wonderful to be accompanying you. Well, if you're going to be following me around, I'll have to give you a name. I'm calling you Six. Six, mistress. I shall remember that. I wonder if I got Mayari's translation correct. I think I did. The shape shows this is an empire piece. So, we get verified emperor. And the emperors believe themselves to be gods, so it makes sense that the words would be almost the same. Holy is verified. But it still doesn't tell me. Where did this thing come from? So where did they find you, Six? Me, mistress. Like most robots on Iox, I was chipped carefully from a concrete wall in the lower levels. You were buried down there. Indeed. I understand it to be not uncommon to find robots that way. We occur, I am told, like potatoes. Do you remember being down there? Trapped? No. I barely remember my activation. There's Huang. Maybe he knows something about Renba. Aaliyah. I didn't know you were back on Iox. How are you, Huang? Oh, well enough, well enough. I've been reading all day. I just came outside to rest my eyes, and there you were. What were you reading? The Annals, again. Did you know Mazwai claims the Holy Emperor was founded by 3 wolves racing to heaven? Each one tore the throat of the other as the 3 fell to earth? Are you really interested? Well, is it relevant to anything? It's only a story, but then stories change how we think. Tell me a story then. Alright. Most people glaze over.
He continued to talk. I watched his mouth moving. I love old stories, but Wang has a way of telling them.
Aaliyah. Oh, that was fascinating. There's hundreds of volumes like that. Sometimes I think there are 3 stories to explain everything, and none of them agree. Other times I think there's just one story that gets retold for every occasion. I'll walk you to the dock. Huang, do you know Janika Renba? Oh, but I know Renba, of course. Well, a little. Why? What did he teach? He's a roboticist. One of the best. One of the few. Did you say did? Has something happened to Janiki? I'll let you know. By the waters. Before you go, it hardly seems important now, but I found a line of ancient in the Annals of Mazwai I thought you might like, if you have the time, that is. Always. Here, See what you think. So in this particular case, the gender of emperor was changed to empress automatically. I know one of these words. I'll have to guess at the other two. So here we actually do have to guess, is it banished or buried? And the next one is the robots, labors, circuits, or rebels. Given that we just talked with Six about the fact that he was buried underneath the city, I'm leaning toward that this would be Empress buried robots. And that could be the story kind of pulling me in that direction, or it could just be my personal bias here. I have actually played through this game twice before. However, I don't remember exact translations or anything like that necessarily. There are some patterns that we'll talk about as we go through, and I do want to kind of keep you a little bit in the dark because this is kind of fun. So, Empress Buried Robots is going to be the first guess on this one. I think that's correct. But I thought there weren't any robots in the Empire. This suggests otherwise. I'd best not keep you. I hope you find him. Shall we proceed to your ship now? Have you sailed before, Six? I have no idea, mistress. But I am keen to find out. And so we left the hallowed walls of the university. At this point, it gives you a timeline that kind of gives you an idea of what happened in the past. The now space talks about what happened now, so learning the words, seeing passages, spoke to Huang. Mayari wants me to find her friend, but then it also ducked back to the period of approximately was that 900 to 300 years ago, wherein the Holy Empire appears to have existed. So Six is buried on Iox somewhere around 900 years ago. Chronicles of Mazwai are written somewhere around 600, 550 years ago. Then the eagle-shaped brooch is right around 500, and the tree planted on Iox is around 500 as well. At this point, we can look at the inscriptions that we found so far, or continue. You will notice that the timeline is sort of dancing, compressing a little bit. That's just because I have chosen a bad key binding for my push to talk, so I'll have that fixed by next time. Aboard the Nightingale. My ship is my refuge. It is the only place that is truly mine. The journey to Miarsi should be quick, mistress. Nice place, is it? I do not believe so, mistress. I believe it is a farmyard. Why does a roboticist go to a farm? To study the competition, perhaps. Or perhaps there are robots buried on Miarsi. Maybe Miarsi will have a few ruins of its own. That seems unlikely. It is a moon of pigs and rice, mistress. Part of the Iox Protectorate, of course. But it is not wealthy. Nonetheless, I will prepare the ropes. Alright, at this point, you want to look at the map and choose where to go. So Miarsi is the only place that currently has an actual location. And press space to plot the course. It's where Janiki told Professor Mayari he was going, but what does a roboticist go to the farm? I could go there next. And space to sail. So this is a ship that is actually a sailing ship that goes on the waters in the space.
My Ari wanted us to sail to Mayersey. It was a short sail through fast waters.
I see the force of the river is fastest in the middle, mistress. So generally speaking, you want to keep to the middle of the rivers. On the surface it appears the same, but there are deeper currents below. You want to stay more or less in the middle until you need to go one way or the other. If you end up feeling like you're going to miss a turn, what you can do is sweep the sail, so right click, and it causes you to jet forward just real quickly. It does work on a recharge system, so it does need to go. Do need to be careful when you use it. And here we have slower waters as we get toward Mersey. Oops, 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 oops. Oh. Okay, so I missed the turn, so you can hit backspace. What do you think? She is very beautiful, mistress. But I cannot help but wonder how you came by her. Unfortunately, that's a story for another time, because that's Mersey. You can see the greenery from here. Mersey, a farming moon. If Remba's here, I need to find him. And if he's not, I need to work out where he went.
We stepped off the ship and into the mud. Mud covered the ground and rock. And everywhere I looked, things were growing from the mud. And some of those things had legs.
Look at this place. Breathe the air. I cannot breathe, mistress. But rest assured, I am most happy for you all the same. Well then, let's see where Remba's got to. If we're really lucky, he'll have found an old pot. So where do we start? There's a series of rice terraces. If we climb up away from the water, it should take us to the village. This way, then.
The air smelled earthy and sweet.
Let's question. Would you recognize Remba if we saw him? Did you meet him? I believe he activated me, mistress. I suspect that is why Professor Mayari assigned me to you. Well, just look at her. She towers over everything. Elbereth has a statue like that. Sort of. It's just a pair of feet. Iox must approve, although I understood they destroyed similar statues on other moons. Can you do a scan for Janiki or something? Mistress has mistaken me for a dog. Perhaps you believe if I had a scrap of clothing that I could trace his scent. Can you do that? Trace a scent? No, mistress. If I see him, I will let you know. Look at this thing. Where is she from? From the material, I would judge it was not quarried here, but most likely close by. It is very big, you understand. You can't be sure? No. It has been here long enough for various radiation signatures to have faded. Someone's carved something here. Symbols in the ancient script. I might be able to translate them. So here we see holy again. These glyphs are a little like my word for emperor. In that there is only one little tiny sort of comma-looking thing that is the same. The second part, though, does actually look almost the same. It almost looks like holy, but it's missing the little straight comma at the end. So here, and this sequence also resembles my translation for emperor. So in this particular case, we might think that this is perhaps goddess. If this item without the little comma in the front is supposed to be this very similar to both emperor and holy, it could very well be goddess. Alright, and then we look here, we say, well, this is death, water, light, and snake. So if we look at it, it's got these kind of curly things in the middle, which do look roughly like water. And this being a farming moon, it makes sense that a goddess would be reserved to take care of the water and ensure good crops. So I'm going to go that way. Does holy water goddess make sense? There is certainly plenty of water here. She's guarding their most precious resource, keeping it all fertile. Actually, if you look, this is very similar to some of the other fertility goddesses that they have here on, actual Earth, where she is holding her stomach as if she were pregnant. So that is another indication that this might be true. I suppose there's nothing old here. No ruins, no ancient kings, no crumbled towers. Of course not, mistress. This is a farmyard. This is a waste of my time, that's what that is. Remba's probably back in Ix again right now. Professor Mayari would have contacted me if that was the case, mistress. He is out here, somewhere, waiting. What's this? Almost buried in the grass. A shard of crystal. Does that mean anything to you, Six? It is most curious. This moon does not contain any crystals of this type. But the brooch Master Remba sent to the professor does. The mineral is the same. Do you think Remba left this here? Some kind of clue? Statistically, yes, but we cannot be sure. Perhaps we should return to the ship. I don't understand. What was he doing here? Someone must know something. What are the chronicles of Mazwai that Huang's always reading about? I believe Mazwai was... she writes about various places of the nebula, and how about the Great Loop has acted. Mazwai believes in the Great Loop, then. Mazwai is an original source for the hypothesis, mistress. As much as anything is a source in the loop, mistress. Master Huang says the book became common shortly after the establishment of the Holy Empire. Right. Do they grow anything else here? It would not appear so. A warehouse. I thought I saw a face at the window. A woman. She ducked out of sight. 6. What do you know about the Loop Temple? I know little of the Loop, mistress. The Loop priests claim that life is a great cycle. They believe that all that happens has happened before. Literally happened? Do they think we've had this conversation before? I believe that is the idea, mistress. Do you believe it? The probability of it is incalculable, mistress. There is no meaningful data. Okay, so we're going to get up to that house and try to figure out if there is somebody there who would be interested in talking. The Loop Temple is extremely old. Nope. They have a lot of money and significant power. They are the heart of the Protectorate. Apologies for this. Apologies, mistress, but you may not know this. The Loop Temple are my owners. But Professor Mayari's your owner. Indeed, mistress. How many moons are there in the Iox Protectorate, 6? At the last settlement, it was 23. A warehouse. So why can I hear crying? I will wait out here, mistress. You! Please, I'm looking for someone. You are from Iox? I'm looking for a man called Janiki. My tall Ioshan. He left something for you. With the goddess to keep it safe. So Janiki was here. Do you know where he went? He promised he would come back. I did so like to believe him. I hope you find him, Miss Mayari. Thank you. I have to go now. I don't want them to see me talking to you. Most curious, mistress. You heard? But I did not understand. Except that it would seem someone from Iox has visited here recently. Do you think there is more to be learned here, mistress? Shall we leave? Are the shard and the brooch enough to find him? Perhaps. Let's try the village first. We need to talk to some more people. The village center will be at the highest point, mistress, to guard against flooding. What did you make of Renba's brooch, anyway, 6? The one he sent to Mayari. I was struck by the craftsmanship. It seemed very fine to me. It is an artisanal product, high status. How high status? Hard to say. Possibly very high. So it's valuable. Most likely. Mistress surely does not intend to sell it. Of course not. But it shows Professor trusts me, doesn't it? A a gleam in the grass. Is that something in the mud? It is. A copper model of a spiral. I would guess it dates from the Holy Empire? This must have been dropped here years ago. It's only been revealed by the irrigation of the fields. It has been inscribed with glyphs, mistress. Is that a single word? No, most likely not. Ancient scribes don't always trouble to put in their spaces. I don't think they expected their writing to be read. So this is one of the other mechanics of the game, wherein you have to split up individual words into many phrases. So here we can see holy is in the middle, potentially gods if the comma dot at the beginning of holy were not meant to be there. If you mess up on your translation, it will cross out one word every time that you are wrong and have nowhere else to go, nothing else to add. So I'm going to put in holy in the middle. And this is correct. So it's going to give us the other two to put in. Let's see now. So here we have... These symbols remind me somewhat of my word for buried. So we have this double comma at the front with an apostrophe and kind of swirly thing that's at the end of buried. Or at least what I think is buried. So we can see that the last three words, follow, shine, and illuminate, are verbs, and the first one is toward. So here, it seems like maybe the double comma at the front of a word is supposed to mean some sort of verb, so an action word. In this particular case, we can look at the others and see that this says... And there's two words I've found before that might help. Right, we see that emperor has the single swirly comma, and water both has the single swirly comma and the backward straight comma at the end. So it was through a bit of deduction that I looked at this and I said, well, if the other one I think is water, then this right here has three rays that are shining down, so it looks like light. So, shine, holy, light makes some amount of sense. We'll go with that for now. I could still change my mind, but shine, holy, light? I could see what Huang thinks when I get back to Iox. This comes from the same site as the brooch, the one Mayari gave us on Iox. Having this should be useful in tracking down where these things originated. So what we see now is there is a new site that is indicated somewhere in the cyclones. What did you make of the model, 6? A most curious item, mistress. It does not appear locally made. So where's it from? Iox? No, mistress. Different moons have different radiation signatures. I do not recognize this one at all. How much higher? One more level, mistress. So there's the option of going down here. I don't think there's anything, but I can check. Yeah, not so much. Okay, so that's the end of the road on that one. Why did they build on stilts, do you think? Surely it doesn't flood up here. From the mud, perhaps, mistress? Or perhaps animals sleep underneath. So there's nothing here directly that's going to get us any more information. So we can walk further up this way. There's not many people tending all of these crops. Plants are not like pigs. They do not require constant husbandry. Stranger. Greetings. Greetings to you. Welcome to Miercy. You have come to trade? Actually, I'm looking for someone. Who? Not a Marison, surely. We are alike as ants to you. My friend is an Ioshan. We'll just ignore that comment. We do not keep any of those in our pens. Good luck with your search. They say the nebula is wide. Helpful. More water. Just sitting here. Are all the moons in the nebula like this, mistress? I have seen so very few. We must be at the top now. There should be a communal point somewhere around here. Some of the nebula is like this, but not most. It seems pitiful to me. You should see what poverty looks like. I'll take you to Elbereth soon enough. Isn't the Protectorate too many moons to manage? There are no threats at present. This no doubt eases the situation. I'm just going to look over here real quick, make sure there's nothing randomly dropped. Iox wants more moons in the Protectorate. Iox has sufficient income at the moment, mistress, I think, but the Ioshan population is not falling. So what do the moons get out of being in the Protectorate? Theoretically, the support of the Ioshan Guard, but that is largely historical.
Three paths met at the heart of the village. I could imagine them all, sitting around here in the evenings, sipping rucker and singing. It seemed nice.
Nuts, I just clicked back to the fields. Yeah, I can't stop her. Boo. Mistress, if I may ask, if you weren't rooting in the mud for lost Robotuses, what would you be doing at this moment? What would I be doing? I'd be sailing the uncharted reaches of the nebula looking for shipwrecks. There are places out there where no one's been for hundreds of years. There are echoes of ancient voices. But no, instead I'm standing in pig muck. Otherwise I'd be scouring the markets of Elbereth for interesting objects. Things survive. Things travel from moon to moon, from person to person. Does that sound silly to you? Things traveling from moon to moon. Hardly, mistress. I am a thing. Or maybe I'd be in the library with Huang reading up on old transcriptions. When the Empire was founded, they threw out the old way of writing, erased the past entirely. But it's all still there, you just have to know where to look. You don't read ancient, do you? I would not know where to begin, mistress. So as you go through, it's really important to note that anything that has a dot that you can't approach, I must say, mistress, I'm extremely excited to be working with you. I have never left Iox before. So anything that has a dot that you can actually interact with will go away when someone is talking. So you just have to be aware of the sorts of things that can happen. You gotta stop every so often and just look around. So you're actually dug out of a wall on Iox. I believe I was removed from a wall. The exact events are hazy. There's plenty of rice stored up. This moon produces a surplus, mistress. For what good it does them. Where does all the water come from? There is a wellspring in the rock below us, mistress. The soil is permanently saturated by it. There's something under the leaves. No, nothing here. By my faith, it stinks here. I do not believe pigs are known for their hygiene, mistress. Good faith to you. My apologies, Ioshan. My pigs need me. Please, if you could just... Did I do something wrong? You came here. Perhaps that is all. The locals didn't seem surprised to see me. Or to see you. I imagine robots collect supplies from here routinely. The locals I know do not seem pleased to see you. Is that an inscription? It has been mostly scratched away. More characters in ancient script. I've got one of these words in my notebook, but I can take a chance on what's left. So here we have holy water, and then crystal from guard or heat. Time below metal. This grouping resembles my translation for buried. Again, in only that there's an X. And this word reminds me of a few others I've seen. So again, if we look at this, we have this curly comma at the beginning and the straighter comma at the end. The previous ones that I have seen so far have been, or at least I have taken them to be, water and light. So it would make sense that this is some sort of elemental connection, now that we see rock or earth here. So I'm going to go with earth. Buried is also starting to make sense. Because if we look at buried, it's also got an earth component in it. So I think, if I have this correct, the comma with a dot is supposed to represent essentially an adjective or something of that sort. Could be an adverb. I don't really know my parts of speech as well as I probably should. But I'm going to think that this is probably holy water from below earth. The X essentially being not, and the I with a dot above it, sort of meaning it's in a higher location than the other characters, so I'm thinking above. So something that says essentially not below, or not above, so below. In this case, I'm thinking again, this is going to be, not, and I don't know what else that would be. So, from. Holy water from below earth makes sense at a well. Yeah, nuts. They do only go kind of one way on this. So how did you end up in a hole on Iox? I have no idea, mistress. I do not know when I was buried, or for what I had done to deserve it. Professor Mayari assures me it is part of the loop. At this point, I'm not actually controlling it. You only get limited places where you can actually do stuff. Ugh. I stepped in something. Mud, mistress. Will your tracks cope with the muck? Thank you, yes. They clean themselves, too. There are little brushes under my fuselage, you understand? What? Little brushes. For cleaning my tracks. Doesn't it bother you that you don't know where you came from? I understood you were an orphan, mistress. Does that not bother you? Definitely no robots here. No reason for Remba to come here at all. Of course there are no robots. Robots are valuable. So if there are no robots, why are there ramps everywhere? Iox uses robots to collect produce from the moons in the Protectorate. Seems like it would be easy to stop the robots taking anything. Pull up a few walkways, put some stones in the way. I cannot imagine that that would make any difference, mistress. Robots are versatile. There must be someone here I can talk to. So were you off while you were buried in Iox? Asleep? Is that why you can't remember it? I do not know, mistress. I cannot remember.
This was what passed for a street on Mayerzi. Buildings on stilts, jumping out of the bushes like children. It was so quiet.
Even more rice. Just lying around. I could scoop enough into my bag and feed an Elberethian family for a week. No one would even notice it was gone. Iox would notice. Why can't everywhere be like this? Enough food, enough space, water to spare. Indeed, mistress. What is a wellspring, anyway? A source, mistress. Nothing more. A source of what? Commonly, water. Also air. But where did things in the well come from? They come from the well, mistress. I do not understand the question. Alright, since I don't want to go back up. Well springs have been discovered throughout the nebula. People rely on them, but no one knows what they are. Found something over here. There's something scratched here. The emblem of Iox. I suppose this is where Maertian leave goods for the Iosians to collect. Well, Janiki won't be hiding in there. There is no way that I'm crossing that, mistress. Robots cannot swim. You can wait, can't you? My power source is good for millennia, mistress. Waiting will not be an issue. Back to the ship, 6. We've done all we can here for now. This way, mistress. And so we left the warm, wet fields of Mercy. Aboard the Nightingale, Remba left a crystal for Emerald to find, but what was he trying to tell her? I'm quite certain of my analysis, mistress. The crystal we found, mistress, and the element inside the brooch, they originate from a moon somewhere inside the edge of the cyclones. The cyclones is a dangerous wild. There's nothing but clouds and storms. I am aware of that, mistress. I wonder, what exactly did Remba discover? Well, we better find out. Put out the sail, 6. Alright, so there is a moon somewhere in this crystal moon vicinity, which is now available to... What you can do is follow a path that goes out to where the crystal moon area is, and then once you get out there, you start poking around basically until something appears. This unknown site, again, you can try to find more stuff. There will be ruins that you find along the rivers, which will add to your expertise and allow you to translate more material. Renaki didn't actually say for us to do anything here, so we'll plot a course to the crystal moon vicinity, see how that goes. The Verdant Pass, sailing to the crystal moon. Are there other ships in the rivers, mistress? I haven't seen any. So at this point, both ways are going to work. There are other ships out here. But you rarely see them. Everyone goes at the same speed. Now entering the Silk Pass, so no one ever passes you by. Sounds lonely. People who like people stay on the ground. You do not like people, mistress. That explains quite a lot. Tell me. Is there anything you do like? I like silence. My findings indicate the crystal moon is close at hand. So here we see a river which is moving much more slowly. When you hit tab, you'll see the crystal moon only has one option. And it is exactly along the path we want to. So, hopefully that's it. Above the crystal moon. Why would anyone come to a spot like this? We've arrived, mistress. The moon below us is rich in purple iolite crystals, but there is no surface flow. We cannot land the ship. Remba must have gone down somehow. Indeed. Most likely he used a hopper. We might do the same. Is it safe? Not really, mistress. No. This moon does not have any air. I will have to go down alone. But you're sure the iolite crystal came from here? Statistically certain, mistress. The moon is rich in deposits of iolite. Please wait here. What else can I do?
A moment later, the robot was gone, and I was alone in the dark.
What were you up to, Renba? If you didn't find robots on Mercy, what did you find? Seems quiet up here now. It's always when you just get used to robots that they disappear on you. Mistress, I found something, mistress. A tool chest. An engineer's chest. And this is Janiki's. The probability is high. I believe the moon below was once a quarry. But this box is no artifact. Renba hid his box down there? It was a superb hiding place, mistress. But whether it was Renba's doing or not, I could not say. A roll of cloth? Why would Renba be hiding something like this? He must have had a reason, mistress. His choice of hiding place was extreme. Thick fabric? Janika, what is this? Some kind of robe? But it's hundreds of years old. There's something stitched along the belt. Tiny characters picked out in a darker thread. This is a long one. Let me think. This one actually does not have any related words. It does say that earth and water seem related to this, but that does not seem to be appropriate in this particular case. Knowing what I know, there is definitely... I know which one of these it is. I won't give it away too much. Here we have we or pilgrims or drinks or soldiers. And the last one. Together, upon, stronger, or follow. The apostrophe symbol being a common thread is going to be useful in not too long. It's going to become apparent pretty slowly, or pretty shortly, what this means. I'm going to go with together. And here, we, pilgrims, drinks, or soldiers. Again, the symbol is here, which looks kind of like a mountain on water. So something like earth or island or something like that. But this last part also has the lambda and shepherd's crook of goddess or holy attached to it. So it seems like this would have some sort of holy connotation to it. So I'm going to go with pilgrims. So sat pilgrims together, with pilgrims together, all pilgrims together, or is not pilgrims together. For now, I'm just going to go with all. But the question is, why did Renba hide this? There's more in here. This is a curved shard of hardboard from a boat's hull. Look at the thickness of it. The ship it came from must have been enormous. And here's an inscription on it. This one is a broken fragment from an even larger segment. So in this case, when you see from a larger segment, you need to think about the idea that this might be only partial on both the left and the right. So you have to be very careful at how you do it. and all I can see is a shine and a light in here. You notice the rest of the phrase falls away. I'm feeling confident about my translation for light. And from what we said earlier, the lines being light and the eye seeming to be something that is up high, and again, I know that there's a piece here with the apostrophe specifically that's going to show that this is going to be, well, the one that fits best here. So shine, stars, light as a possessive. I think this is from a totally different place than that robe. In fact, I don't think we've seen anything like that hull shard before. So this originates from somewhere I haven't previously discovered. But that's not all. There's also an iron-edged clay container. How did Renba get his hands on all this? And there's some inscribed symbols. So again, we see light. And then it auto-separates again. That leaves one word to guess. So in here, we're seeing again the same sort of symbols. 2 lines up front, which gives us the idea, again, I had said this before, it seems like that this is going to be some sort of verb. And it does not have the apostrophe in it, so it seems like it's probably not going to be a possessive, but we'll see. There are easier times where this comes from a specific artifact, so like something that said Holy Emperor would come from either an empire or a Book of Wisdom or something like that. So it becomes kind of obvious with some of these what it's going to be. For now, I'm going to go with follow. Seems to be something reasonable. You'd be telling your peers, follow the light. There's something inside. A chipped figurine of grasping God. Look at the carvings. Someone took time over this. There's something etched on its head. This is the end of a line of text. So this is also important. Where in the phrase is this going to most likely look reasonable? So it's looking like divine is going to fit in there. Empress is not. So if it is divine, then what do we have here? We have divine symbol, friendship, friend, or heart. Again, something with 2 lines in front of it is probably going to be a verb. And again, there's something else that I'm aware of here. So I'm going to say that this is probably going to be either friend or friendship. Let's go with friendship for now. I'll go with divine friend. That'll do for now. I guess that comes from the same site as this container in the hull shard. That should help us locate the source. So, are these leads, or are these things Renva was after? Please wait, mistress. I will consider the matter. Can you work out where the robe originated? I fear so. It is not a good location, mistress, but Professor Mayari was keen that we found Master Renba. And I am sure Master Renba is equally keen to be found. Is it somewhere else off the rivers? I'm not exactly certain, mistress, but I believe Renba traveled far from home, into the eye of the cyclones, and most likely the winds tore him apart. So right now we're going to plot a course to the eye of the cyclones. How does such a fine robe come to be from somewhere like this? From the center of a hurricane? The robe was no doubt made somewhere else, mistress. It merely lay here for some time. At this point, there's only one way to go. We seem to have emerged close to the eye of the cyclones, mistress. I cannot see which way to turn at this branch, mistress. Again, pretty much all roads lead there at this point. We'll have to choose one and explore. Alright, after landing, this is going to be it for me. I see it. There's something up ahead. A moon? There is air, but no upriver, mistress. We will need to leave the ship here and hopper down. Please, do not be alarmed. It is quite safe. The eye of the cyclones. Will Remby be waiting for us here in the middle of the center of the storm?
For a moment I was gone. Not aboard the Nightingale, not on the moon beneath. It could have been a heartbeat or an hour. But I didn't feel the cold until I reappeared.
A pile of rocks, mistress. smashed together by the waters. Seems Janiki had a taste for places like this. You said the last one would be empty too. And it wasn't. So who knows what we'll find here. Perhaps a box of hand towels and a hairbrush. This way, 6. Okay, so thank you everybody for tuning in. I will probably be spending at least the next couple of hours in Heaven's Vault to find out what is at this particular on this particular moon that is in the center of the cyclones. I'm not going to give away too much, like I said. There are a couple of other places I really want to go to give you a sense of the world. One is Elbereth, and I will have to probably piss off Professor Mayari, but that's alright, given what I know. Alright, well, thank you, good night, and stay safe out there.